What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport. Welcome back to another video featuring the 2002 AMG C32 that sits right behind me. This car was wrecked. This car was a disaster. I will absolutely leave a link to those videos. And financially, it made absolutely no sense to try to revive this car, but I couldn't see this thing go to the junkyard. This is an up-and-coming classic. This is an AMG. This is not a car that you see every day, and I hate when these cars just get destroyed and then sent out to junk. So I've got the engine, well, the top of the engine parts pulled off here because what I want to do is clean this engine down. I've been working on it a lot and just getting my hands covered in grease, and I want to get rid of all that. So we're going to start by just degreasing this whole thing down. I'm going to show you what we're going to use, which is super clean. I was going to change out the valve cover gaskets, but I decided that I'm going to see where it's leaking from because they look pretty clean. I'm not sure if the oil is even coming from there or if it's just residue. So let's get it all cleaned down and we'll run the car a little bit. Then if we need to change out the valve cover gaskets, we will. So outside of that, I've already went ahead and drained out the transmission fluid from the drain bolt. I'll show you guys a little bit of that. Transmission fluid looked really good, so that was a good thing. And I went ahead and replaced that. This car does not have a transmission dipstick, and I did not trust the amount that came out, adding that amount back. So what I need to do now is I ordered a dipstick, so we'll wait for that to come in, which will be on this episode, and we'll check our levels and make sure that we've got a good amount of fluid in there. Outside of that, we're going to change out the differential fluid, so I need to get this thing up in the air. But first, we'll clean down the engine. We're going to go ahead and change out the air filters, which ironically, there was no air filters. So I went ahead and took this box off because I wanted to see how bad the air filters were, and there was nothing inside. Not a shocker compared to all the other stuff that was kind of rigged up on this car. So I need to get some air filters in there. They had these readily available down at Advanced Auto. So I went and picked these up. I may switch it over to a K&N, but like I said, we want to get this car on the dyno as stock as possible and then try to do some modifications, exhaust, intake, an upgraded front mount intercooler, and maybe some other things, and we'll take it back to the dyno and see what kind of results we get. Oh, and we also have an upgraded pulley coming in. So this is what we're going to use to clean down the engine. This is what I'm going to use in the differential. I know it's not the Mercedes brand one, but this is what a lot of people on the forum said to use in place of that. And this is what I used, and I use this on all of the Bens that I have with the same transmission that is in this, a 722.6, and this seems to work really, really well. And it looked like that's what was already in the car, so we went ahead and added some of that in, but like I said, I think we're going to need to add more. So let's jump over there. We'll start cleaning down the engine. We'll swap out the diff fluid, and we'll move on from there. Alright guys, so the engine came out really, really good. All I did was sprayed it down with super clean foam, let that sit on there for a little while. I hand did these areas here so I didn't get a whole bunch of water up in there, so I used a towel and just kind of wiped everything down. Make sure you have gloves on. This stuff will burn your skin. It's very, very strong. And then I kind of hand wiped down this front area and heavily hosed down these type of areas here with some pressure, and then lightly hose down this top because I had to make sure I didn't get any water up in the intake there since we've got everything off. Now, the other thing I did was disconnected the negative battery and tried to stay away from the fuse box as much as possible, even though a little bit of spray got on there. Probably a little bit better if you cover that completely with another bag or some plastic. Other than that, couldn't be happier. I'm going to let everything dry down. We're going to get the air filters put in, raise this car up, drain the diff fluid, and keep going from there. Alright guys, I went ahead and got the air filters put back in, the boxes all set up, and I sprayed down the engine bay with some tire foam, which is a little trick I learned, but I wanted to talk about something else. So nothing ever goes perfectly smooth with this car, and putting back in the hoses here, which I realized while I was test driving it on that last video doing the pulls, I completely forgot that I had these hoses off, and that could have been a big part of why the supercharger was shutting down and heat soaking. So I do need to take care of that, and I thought that this would solve that issue when I realized that, but these hoses don't even line up. So this is probably not the right hose at all right here. It kind of goes out the wrong angle. Obviously I had to tape it up because it was all cracked up. This one seems to snap in here, goes right up front, which wouldn't be an issue, except it doesn't come out properly onto this piece here. So either this piece here is different, or that hose is completely different as well. So what I'm going to have to do is try to seal that off the best I can so I can do another pull or bring it to the dyno, and then we're going to replace all of that with probably a modified upgraded version, see if we gain any power out of that. Alright, so let's move on. Just wanted to fill you guys in and show you guys how the engine's looking. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the diff fluid. Now, there's some people that argue that this is a lifetime diff fluid, and there's others that say change it every 30,000, 60,000 miles. Well, we've got 270,000 miles, so no matter what they say, we want to change this out because I have no idea what this is going to look like or if it's ever been done. So, like I said, we went ahead and picked up the 75W90 Mobil 1 full synthetic. They do have, I think it's an 85W90. That's a brand from Mercedes. So if you have a lower mileage vehicle and you want to stick to the brand, make sure you do the research on that. But we're going to use that, and we're going to pump it into the differential using this pump right here. They sell several different types of pumps that are pretty inexpensive. And then we're going to need a 14 millimeter Allen socket. So I've got this breaker bar, and this is my drain plug, which is right there. But before you do the drain plug, you want to make sure your fill plug can be taken out, which is right there. So right above the exhaust coming around the back. I've already taken mine and loosened it so I know it'll come out. And now I'm going to go ahead and drain. So let me get set up and I'll show you guys that. Alright, so I went ahead and grabbed the sample with a cup. Two things we want to look for is like a metallic looking shine. That'll tell us that there's a whole bunch of metal in there. But we also have our bolt that has a magnet on it, and you'll see metal shavings or heavy metal shavings. You're always going to see some sort of metal shavings. So I'm just going to take this towel, wipe it across it, and see what we got. So nothing crazy. This is a little chunky, but nothing real bad. You know, there's no heavy metal shaving sticking off of this magnet, but you would see big chunks of metal. This is kind of more like thick buildup than metal, so that's kind of a good thing. So now we'll be able to get some fresh fluid in there and know we're going to be good. Let me go ahead and get set up, and I'll show you guys how to pump it in. All right, so I went ahead and dropped in the end that's going to suck, and the end that's going to push the fluid is going to be put right up into the fill hole. We already capped off our drain plug. I think it was 50 Newton meters were the torque specs, which is probably going to be the same for the fill plug. Not going to be able to film too much of this just because of the angle, but what we're going to do is we're going to pump it till we start to see it dribble down a little bit. We're going to let that dribble come out a little bit, and then we'll put in our bolt and tighten it up, and we'll be good to go. Make sure you have your car level, because a lot of times people jack them up, and that'll give you a false reading of how much fluid's in there. So you want to make sure it's level. So if you have the rear jack, make sure you jack the front. and put some jack stands on it to make it level. All right, I'm going to go ahead and fill this up. I'll show you guys how this thing pumps real quick, and then we'll cap it off and pretty much call it a day. There's one more thing we do need to look at, and I'll point that out in just a second. So we used almost 2 of these, so right around 1 and probably at least 3/4, if not a little bit more, before it started to drip down. I'm going to let that drip down until it stops, and we'll go ahead and add that cap back on there and call it a day on the diff. So guys, the last thing on my list to fix before we take this car to the dyno was to get the cooling fan to start working, because it wasn't kicking on, and I was getting worried because temperatures were getting up pretty high while we were doing our test runs. So I decided that I needed to tackle that before we do anything else. So obviously started with fuses, and the fuse was blown. So I went ahead and swapped that out, and it popped again, which kind of told me that there's some sort of short in the system. I went through the wires, tried to figure it out, and ended up pulling the cooling fan completely out. That's why the bumper's off and everything here. And I ran a bunch of tests on the actual cooling fan. So what I had to do was do some research, because I don't have a manual, and try to figure out the wiring on this. And I came to the conclusion that it's probably this, which is, I believe, the relay, based on the research I did. So I couldn't find a relay in the box, and I could be wrong on that. And when I searched for a relay for the fan, this is what comes up right here, and it makes complete sense. And so I tried to hardwire it directly to the fan by bypassing this, and I really couldn't get the fan to kick on. So I came to the conclusion that either the fan is bad, the relay's bad, and instead of spending days trying to figure out the wiring on this, I cut the fan out, and I'm going to go ahead and put a universal fan in here. And I've already ordered that, but I have to wait for that to come in. So instead of waiting for that to come in, showing you guys that, what I'm going to do is end the video here, and when that fan comes in, I'll just go ahead and put it in off camera. And the next video, a bunch more pulls on this, but we'll probably be taking it down to the dyno. I think I'm going to hold off till I can get this thing to the dyno to show you guys what a 270,000 mile destroyed C32 will do on the dyno. And I'm guessing it's going to be pretty low numbers, but that's completely fine, because we're going to modify it from there. I've already got some other things coming in, and I'm pretty excited to see what type of jump we can get in horsepower on this 270,000 mile C32. So once again, guys, you have an awesome day, a blessed week, and I'll catch you on the next video.